biggest question to you is about the money, because the money is like getting crazy money now that they're paying in the Premier League to buy players and to during these transfer windows, and how much that they're buying. For example, Chelsea spent over 600 million in a year. So is that potentially bad for the Premier League? I guess the amount of money that these people are sinking into, American or Middle Eastern or British or not. The fact
Yeah.
is that more and more and more and more money, crazy, crazy amounts of money are being sunk into this league. Is that potentially going to have like not a bubble effect, but just a big downfall in the future? Are they putting too
Yeah.
much too fast right now? Should they
Yeah.
be
So
careful?
I personally think no. So like we can look at the Enzo Fernandez deal.
Yeah.
That was all money spent, but it technically it went to Portugal, and then from Portugal it went back to Argentina. Like I'm pretty sure River Plate got
River
like,
had a sell-on clause. Yeah.
yeah, they got like 25 million out of that deal.
Yeah.
So like from that perspective, like I don't know what River Plate's finances are like, but I would venture to say that 25 million to them for a player they sold 6 months ago for like six,
Six. Yeah.
that is amazing. Like
Yeah.
for River Plate, I would say that was amazing for the Portuguese league. That's also amazing. And as far as the Premier League, I mean, again, I feel like okay, this is what I think will happen. Like players will get to a point where they start getting priced out and they can't do transfers, and then they'll just start riding their contracts out to make the move to go wherever they want to go for free, kind of like what they do in Germany. So I feel like it will like
Even
balance
out.
itself
Okay.
out. Yeah, because it will get to a point where it's like okay, like if Enzo Fernandez is worth 120, then Jude Bellingham is worth 350 million. Who's
Yeah.
gonna buy Jude Bellingham for 350? No one. Okay, he's gonna finish his contract at Borussia Dortmund and he'll sign somewhere as a free agent. And then I just feel like it will get more to a place where like maybe contracts are shorter, or players won't sign unless there's a release clause,
Yeah.
kind of like Erling Haaland, where it's like, yeah, like I know I'm worth 250 million, but I don't want to be priced out of a move and have to stay in Borussia Dortmund. So I'm not signing with you unless after 2 seasons I have a release clause that says I can go for 60 million. And I
Yeah.
feel like I feel like they do that a lot in Spain. They do that a lot in Germany. That's something you don't see a lot of in the Premier League. But I feel
Right.
like if this is the way that it's going, players, if they're advised properly, like if I was advising a player, like, listen, like, yeah, like, you're that guy, but like, it's not important. Like at the end of the day, like the data shows the more money you go for, the less likely you are to succeed. So
Yeah.
like, why would you ever want to be the world record transfer player? Like, I mean, it's cool until it isn't. And it
Yeah.
isn't because you never live up to that price tag. No one has ever lived up
Yeah.
to that price tag. Even people would say Neymar and Mbappe and Paris haven't because they still haven't won the Champions League,
Yeah.
despite they've won every other trophy they've ever participated in.
Yeah.
So I would say like, yeah, like that. I feel like people like will counteract that so that they aren't put in a position where like things are out of control. Everyone will start having a release clause. And because people know that, then like they won't offer those crazy deals, or those crazy deals will like be less likely to occur because they're like, oh yeah, like if I just wait another year, the release clause will kick in and I'll get this player for a reasonable amount of money. And then like when it's like these Pedris and Gavis and Ansu Fatis that Barcelona are putting on like $1 billion release clauses, it's like, okay, you're making it clear, like all you're saying is like this player is never for
Not for
sale,
sale. Yeah.
which is fine. Like that's your way of saying that because no one's ever going to pay that. And it's totally fine to have a player that's not for sale. And one day you might decide you want to sell them, but that player will also then be a negotiated price that's reasonable and not,
Yeah.
150 million. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, well said. I mean, I think you're spot on because we've seen this before, right? Like one of the biggest ones that this started to happen with was Pogba. Bought him for 90
Yeah.
something million. And he did exactly what you said. He was like, "No, I'm not signing another contract. I'm
Yeah.
going to go to where I want to go when this thing runs out." And he did. And I think that kind of to your point, like the players that are getting bought for this, like I think that their representatives or their agents or maybe it's them are just getting smarter with how their contract is handled, which is good for them. I mean, they're treated as though they're a product, and so I think that it's good that they're protecting themselves, like you've mentioned. So yeah, I don't really have an issue with it. I think that that's just the natural progression of the game. Buying, as things get inflated, obviously players and prices will get inflated. So I
Yeah.
think it's just part of the way that the world works, especially business, which we all know that this game is. And so I'm glad to see that these players are kind of, getting paid, but also protecting themselves and their name. And, like you said, just making sure that they're getting kind of what they want at the end.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say is like I really do like, for example, in the example of like Enzo Fernandez, I like the idea of having sell-on clauses
Yeah.
baked into the contracts that also like the smaller clubs, like let's say the feeder clubs, aren't getting completely screwed, because it's
Yeah.
like any play, like I'd say the majority of the players that come from like outside of the or outside of like the top 5 European leagues, like guys that are coming from like second division in France, guys that are coming from like Belgium, guys that are coming from South America,
Hmm.
every once in a while America, like these guys are coming in all for like less than 10 million. Like they're coming
Yeah.
in for pennies on the dollar. So it's like random CONCACAF or CONMEBOL or the Asian club that sells or African club that sells player, they get nothing. Player goes to like Benfica or player goes to like Club Brugge or something like that, gets seen, then gets sold on for like 40 or 50 mil. It's like, okay, like they only played for like a season or two. Like sell on clause.
Yeah.
Like you just got to realize like Chelsea aren't scouting at River Plate. Chelsea are scouting at Benfica. Benfica is
Yeah.
scouting at River Plate. It's
Yeah.
like it all feeds into the system. So it's like either Chelsea's going to start scouting at River Plate, and Benfica is never going to get those players because they're just going to sell them like the kind of way Santos sold Neymar straight to Barcelona for a big fat sum. That was
Mhm.
still a deal, like 60 million for Neymar in 2013 or
Yeah.
12. That's a bargain. Like that's
Yeah.
easy. Like the kid that Real Madrid just signed from Palmeiras that will come
Yeah.
next season, the kid Endrick. Those are all deals. So it's like, do you want the Giants to start invading like these wealth countries, or you could just give them all, do sign on clauses with percentages, and that way, like these intermediate leagues are also
Yeah.
participating in the soccer pyramid and getting their money, and playing their part, which I personally prefer.
I do
To
too.
say like oh yeah, like Luis Suarez, he came from independent. How do you say it?
Independiente.
Yeah, to PSV to Liverpool,
Yeah.
Liverpool to Barcelona, Barcelona to Atletico, Atletico back down to.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Independiente.
There you go. So
Yeah,
that's
no,
my
that's a
take.
good, that's a good point, because obviously being South American, I would love to see. We've talked about this in the past, but I'd love to see a little bit more. People looking out for these South American clubs, and I think that, to your point, all of these, if they're purchased from or like outside of the top 5, leagues or whatever, or South American, even Mexican leagues or African leagues, like I believe that they should automatically have a sell-on clause baked into that if
Yeah.
like a Benfica is coming for them or a Chelsea is coming from it. And there's a reason that they have there is that trajectory of rather than South America straight to England, it's South America to Portugal or to the Netherlands or Belgium or whatever, and
Yeah.
then to obviously the Premier League. But one thing that, to your point, like Man City is starting to raid the Argentine league these last couple seasons. They picked up a few. They just signed another one in January. So the talent is there. I just think that historically these big Premier League clubs aren't really searching a ton down there. One, there's a ton of like from Brazil alone, that would just be super hard to sift through.
There's too much talent to look at.
So much, but also like I think that it's good that Benfica is doing this thing, or I don't know, Dortmund to an extent, or
Yeah.
PSV. These clubs are looking, because you're right, there is a chain of command in order, and I think that it all kind of works out in the end. But I do like to see a sell-on clause for these smaller South American clubs, and even these mid-sized European clubs get money
Yeah.
from these players that they've
Yeah.
invested in.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.